Welcome to Vintage Weights PGH. My name is Rob, and these are vintage York Roundhead dumbbells. Roundhead dumbbells are a great entry point to vintage weights and a quality complement to your modern gym, even if you're not into vintage weights. Because there's just something really nice about getting away from rubber hex dumbbells and lifting with iron. So please, indulge me and watch through this video guide on York Roundhead dumbbells, where I'll go over the basic information you need to know. I'll go over how to restore and how to find them. I guess in reverse order, how to find them and then restore them. I'll also hit on some current pricing. Even though there's no official price guide or pricing authority, this is a collectible. It's a functional collectible, so I'll give you my best opinion, which is the best I can do when it comes to pricing. Let's take a closer look. York Barbell Company produced York Roundhead dumbbells between the 1960s and the 1990s. They then released the Legacy series after that. They range in weight from 1 pound all the way up to 100. I don't have hundreds, but these 95s will give you a little bit of a size comparison of the range of weight. The most common weights were 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35. However, as you can see, they produced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 as well. The rarest dumbbells in the small category would be the 9-pounders and the 12s. No 11-pound, 13, or 14-pound roundheads were produced. However, out of all the smalls, I actually think the 12s are the best functionally because I'm a pretty average guy and I find use for the 12s. Only my children really use the rest of the smalls. What do you need to know in terms of buying them? Well, to determine how old they were, it's really two different categories, USA and pre-USA. I have a mixed pair of 15-pound roundheads that are a good demonstration that if you turn them over on the back, underneath the York side of the dumbbell, if it says USA and has a USA stamp, they were produced in the 1990s. However, if you turn them over and they do not have a USA stamp, they were produced prior to the 1990s. So these, without the USA stamp, are older. They were produced between 1960s and 1980s. And they are slightly more collectible, but there are a lot of collectors out there that don't really care whether it's USA or pre-USA. It is notable, though, that there's a slight difference with the heavies. When it comes to USA and pre-USA, I don't think it plays a part with everyday lifting as dumbbells, but people that chop them into blobs refer to the USA stamped as next gen because there is a slight difference, I believe, on the inside edge of the head. Now, when it comes to variances, there really isn't a variety other than blues. So the blues are pretty cool. These were produced for big box sporting goods stores. A lot of times they still have the price tag on them from Champs. And they have this cool kind of patterned blue. It's not a flat blue. It's got almost a marbling to it. And I find that these are a little harder to find, but they don't command a hefty price beyond just regular roundheads in my experience. I really like them. They're something different, kind of cool. So when it comes to the rarity of these, they're really not all that rare. The more manageable ones, the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. I find that 40s, 45s, and 50s tend to get a little more difficult to find. And then beyond that, they get pretty difficult. I'd think that chopping into blobs make it hard to find, and just less people bought the extremely heavy ones. People have told me that the odd number heavies, like 55, 65, 95, are also rarer than the even number ones for that same reason. People wanted them less. A lot of people did 10-pound jumps, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. I don't have any facts that back that up, but it seems logical. And when it comes to these common ones and pricing, things of that nature, I would say that $1.50 a pound is pretty fair for all of the commons. When it comes to the less common ones, we start creeping up in price, maybe $1.75 to $2 a pound, especially for the heavies. But it's not unreasonable to find them for less than that. When it comes to storage and things of that nature, you'll notice that my heavies are on the floor. That's because I don't even keep them near the common ones, near the lower weight ones. This rack I have is a Therabody rack, and let's see. It is about 52 inches long, 2 shelves, and the storage below, and I can only fit 5 through 65. So you'd really need to consider storage if you're going to go for the whole set. Now let's get into finding them and collecting them. So if these are looking good to you and you want to get some Roundhead dumbbells, like I said at the top of the video, it doesn't have to be your whole thing. You don't have to be a vintage weights collector per se. You can just complement your home gym that has all new shiny stuff with an old school set of Roundhead dumbbells. If that's you, no matter the case, then here's my best advice for collecting them. The first thing you need to know is shipping. If you're on the West Coast, most likely most of your Roundheads are going to be shipped to you. You're not going to find them out there as often as on the East Coast. Same thing if you live in the South. The Northeast, basically where I live, is Roundhead Central because it's near York, where they were produced, York, Pennsylvania. When it comes to shipping, United States Postal Service flat rate only goes up to 70 pounds. And their flat rate boxes fit comfortably. I've mailed up to a 50-pound single in a large flat rate box. I've heard people say that they've shipped 60 pounds, 60-pound single dumbbell. I'm not sure personally. What I do know is that they're about $22 and change. The flat rate boxes, the large ones from the post office, you just go pick up a box and then bring it back packed with what you want to ship. So for a pair, you're looking at $46 in shipping to get them anywhere in the United States. When it comes to the smaller ones, they might fit a pair into a large box, or even like the 10-pounders, the 15s, they might fit a pair into a medium. The absolute smalls, like the 1s and 2s and 3s, they'll fit into possibly a small flat rate box. Next thing would be, what are you going to look for, especially if you're communicating before shipping? The number one thing to ask would be whether it's USA stamped or not. That will help you determine whether you want it or not, depending on your preferences. The second thing to ask would be, is the handle straight and are the heads tight? Quite often, these are bent, like my 50-pounder here is bent. You can fix them, I just haven't straightened this one yet. What you do, and I should really do a video on this, maybe I will. Make sure you subscribe and you can see me do this. But what you do is you take a 2x4 or other piece of wood, you put it on the handle so that the curve is facing up like a rainbow, and then you take a big 100-pound plate and you smash it until it's straight. You can also take it to a machine shop and they can do it for you in a much more professional manner. If you're doing the method that I described at home, please be safe. Wear safety gear. Make sure you're able to handle that 100-pound plate. Be safe. Now, that's how to fix a bent one. I would buy a bent one, and I have bought bent Roundheads, and I have fixed them to a certain degree. What I have not been able to fix ever is a loose head. I've had loose heads on Roundheads all the way down to a 30-pounder. If someone drops it, it might bend if it's larger, but even small ones, or medium ones I guess you could say, 30s, 40s, they can get a loose head by being dropped. The best way to test whether one has a loose head if you're buying in person is to set it down on a concrete or hard surface, and just feel and see if it rattles. Now, you don't have to drop it. I mean, don't completely scare the seller. Like, why is this weirdo dropping the weights? But just set it down and see if you hear it rattle. If it's rattling, it's probably loose. If it's loose, I don't really have a good way to fix that. I mean, you could weld it if you know how to weld or know a welder, but I don't think that aesthetically will look that great. You could also try some of these methods I've heard, but not tried myself. I've heard people say, someone commented on one of my posts to dump water down into it because then it would rust itself tight. I mean, logically, that kind of makes sense. I haven't tried it though. And then the other thing people put was super glue and stuff like that. Like just squirt some super glue down in there, JB Weld, whatever you can find to squirt down in there to make it stay tight. I'm not sure if that works. You can experiment, it's up to you. Personally, I just avoided loose heads on any smalls. If it's a loose head on a larger one, if you subscribe to my channel, you know that I like blobs. I would cut them into blobs if they're loose. Now, when it comes to what you want to find, if you're West Coast, then maybe just set your sights on 0 through 60. I don't know why I said 0, that would be no dumbbell. Set your sights on 1 through 60. Don't get that invisible 0-pound dumbbell. Very rare, hard to find. Oh my gosh, so many dad jokes. All right, back to what I was saying. If you want to though, I mean, there is freight shipping and other shipping methods. There is the possibility to connect with people that might be coming your way and drive things out to you and stuff like that. There's Home Gym Con in French Lick, Indiana. Maybe see if people are going to Home Gym Con. If they're not, tell them to use code VINTAGE to get 10% off their tickets. April 14th through the 16th, Home Gym Con. And find a meetup spot. And it depends how far you want to drive to really get those heavies. As far as restoration, this is where, I mean, personally, I avoided any that were repainted because that would mean I had to strip it down to bare iron to then paint it the way I wanted it painted. And everyone seems to like glossy paint for some reason, and I hate it. So moving on from the shiny stuff, I like to find rusty because that means I can use OA or, even better, original paint that isn't rusty. And I don't even have to do anything but hit it with some 3-in-1 oil. If you have never used OA, which stands for oxalic acid, I have plenty of videos on it. I will drop a link to a pretty good one right here. And you can explore my channel. Make sure you subscribe so you see future projects. To give you an idea behind me, the 40-pounders right here, they are a split pair. I got those as singles. This one doesn't have any original paint left. This is just a patina forming, whereas this one does. That doesn't bother me. If it bothers you, and it bothers you kind of the menagerie of different tones of black and different amounts of patina versus black original paint that you see on my set, then what I would suggest you do is get a sizable amount of Roundheads, collect a sizable amount, and then follow my instructions for stripping down paint. Keep with me here. Stripping down weights to bare iron and stripping paint off of weights so that you can repaint them a uniform color. And I've seen plenty of people do that to very good effect. Last but not least, why do I love these things? Well, it might seem a little contradictory. I said I was replacing them with globes, but I'm not going to replace them all. I'm going to keep some. I really like the blues. I think they're cool. I'll definitely keep my blues. I like the shape and the look of the heavies, so I'm going to keep a couple of my heavier ones too. That, and personally, I'm just so strong I lift the heavies. No, but I like doing farmer's walks and I like doing deadlifts with them. It's a nice change of pace to do like a stiff leg deadlift with heavy dumbbells as opposed to a barbell. So I'll keep some of those as well. This is why I like them. I like them because of the handles, which I mentioned before. I like them because they're iron rather than rubber hex, which I mentioned before. And I also like them because of their shape. Just this kind of pill shape. I like the round surface. You know, with hex dumbbells, I was always catching myself with them. With Roundheads, just a gentle glaze off the thigh rather than a sharp edge bruising you. The other thing I really like is the lettering and numbering. I just think it's aesthetically pleasing. It's got a uniform look to it. No matter how large they get, they proportionally increase the lettering and numbering, which I like that York made that decision. The only thing that I would say is a criticism of these would just be the things that I told you to watch out for. Loose heads, bent handles. The other thing would be that if you're one of these like knurling obsessed people and you want a knurled handle, oh, you want an ergonomic handle that feels so nice in your hand, then go for it, you know, get what works for you. And this is not going to work for you if you want that fatter handle or if you want it to be knurled. Sorry to tell you. With that said, please make sure that if you have distinct opinions like that on the Roundheads, good or bad, drop them in the comments. Let's get a conversation going. Drop a comment. I promise I'll reply to it. And please make sure that you like and subscribe. I appreciate you watching my video. I appreciate you subscribing to my channel. This is Vintage Weights PGH, Old Weights, New Gains.